What's up, guys? I want to give you a little update on this X-ray. I finally got it close. Excuse me. If you guys remember, I've been having trouble with the clutch engaging, and so anyway, I was working on it for like 8.5 hours last night, from like 4 o'clock till 12:30, and still didn't get it. Well, I thought I did get it. Yeah, maybe I did. I can't remember. Anyway. I tested it out today, and the wheel finally started to turn. But anyway, it's the Cyntax Clutch. Let me show you. Let me put the card down. So here's the Cyntax Clutch there. And the issue I was having, I mean, this one is actually really easy to work on compared to like the Mugen MTX4R. That thing's an absolute nightmare. I'm gonna get rid of that car, cause, ugh. Anyway, this car is actually really easy to work on. It's just a matter of, learning how to adjust the clutch properly. And that's what was so difficult, because I just don't have the proper tools to do it. But anyway, I figured out how to make it work, and I used some of my guitar picks, because my guitar picks come in the specific thicknesses that the clutch needs. So one of them is like 0.7 millimeters, and one's like 0.5 millimeters. You see there it says 0.7, and this one's like 0.5 millimeters. Or 0.5 millimeter. So anyway, and then some of the adjustments are even down to like the 1/10 of a millimeter, like 0.1 millimeter. And so this thing is an absolute nightmare to try and work on. Unless you have the proper tools, you need this like, excuse me, you need some kind of like digital caliper, and I don't know, all kinds of other stuff, man. It's just been crazy trying to figure this stuff out, but I finally figured it out. And it turns out I had the maybe I did, I don't know. The last thing I did was I reversed the clutch weights. Let's see if we can pull it up over here on the computer. I'll show you. Yeah, so the last thing I did was reverse the clutch weights, which was, I couldn't believe I had that stuff on backwards, but whatever. So, oh, and then the pressure plate was also on backwards. Look, and they're not, oh look, here's the clutch weights here. And so it doesn't even show you the orientation that the clutch weights are supposed to go. Basically, like, they will rotate out a specific direction, from the centrifugal force. So I guess this is just the exploded view. What did I do with the manual? Let's see, what did I do with the manual? I must have closed it. Oh wait, here it is. Here we go. Okay, so this was the page that I was basically stuck on for like 8.5 hours trying to figure out all this stuff. And what they want you to do is adjust like to the smallest little degree. It says, do this on A, and you leave the clutch bearing out over here, and then and then you push the clutch belt so that it sits on the shoe, and then you pull it away, and then you measure the distance, and that gap should be anywhere from 0.6 to 0.7 of a millimeter. Anyway, so, and then you have to put the bearing back on and then measure it again, and then that's supposed to be 0.05 to 0.15 of a millimeter for what they call your in-place shim. So anyway, this is just extremely difficult for me to figure out how to do. I was able to do this one and just kind of make it work, but I guess I'm gonna have to get one of those calipers, or maybe one of these little hoodie tools or something. But if you guys have any tips for me, I'd love to hear it, man, because it's just been a pain in the butt trying to get this thing you know, what they call worn in, and that's what they're talking about here. So you can see right here it's talking about 10 to 11 millimeters, and then this is supposed to be 9.2 to 9.3 millimeters from the end of the shaft, the engine shaft, to the beginning of the threads. So you can see how precise that has to be. And then here they finally show like the orientation over here of you know, how the clutch shoes are supposed to be oriented. So anyway, I think mine were actually on incorrect, and that's why it wouldn't engage. And also the this is the pressure plate here. My pressure plate was also on backwards. And then it also says that this clutch spring retaining nut can't be too tight, and that's what they're talking about here. And so when your clutch is all brand new, you have to keep it this clutch spring retaining nut extremely loose, so that that spring will break in, and also the clutch shoe itself will what they call run in, and that's what they're talking about all right here. And yeah, so it's a pretty elaborate kind of procedure. You have to just barely like turn this thing, this clutch spring retaining nut or whatever they call that, this thing right here, and you just barely see right here. This isn't even accurate. This is after like your clutch shoe's already been worn in and the spring's been worn in. And so before that, you have to just barely put this little nut on there, this clutch spring retaining nut, to where it's just barely on there, and that's what controls the RPM at which your clutch engages at. And so you have to put it on the bench and just let it run on the bench for a while, or put it on the track and try and run it a little bit, but I can guarantee you it's probably just not going to go anywhere. So you want to just, you know, let this thing run in for like almost a full tank. And that's another thing that's talking about here. They're trying to say that you need to put it on the track. See, we recommend running it on the track for a whole tank, or just leave it on the starter box if you have limited time, is what it says. And then run it for one tank on a soft preload setting, that's what they call that. And then after that, you slightly tighten the spring, and then continue the process until the shoe is completely broken in. And then you'll be able to tell, it says, by a dark and glossy surface color on the top of the shoe. So you can see how it's all nice and pristine yellow. Well, when it's all worn in, it's going to change to, like, you know, a brown and glazed is what it's saying, glossy surface color. And you can add these little clutch weights in the actual, these little grub screws in the clutch weights. Anyway, this thing's just been a complete nightmare, and so I would definitely not recommend this style of clutch for, you know, just your average basher or whatever, because believe me when I tell you, you're gonna get extremely frustrated and probably give up. You know, this thing has taken me, you know, a couple days of just tinkering with it non-stop to finally figure it out. And you know, going over and over the instructions, and that's when I noticed, like, this thing here, I had it on backwards, so you can tell this little flange comes this way, and I had it on going the other way, and that was my initial problem. So I put it all back together, and then I took it all back apart again and realized that well, first this thing was on too tight, and so I loosened that up, and then I put it all back anyway, and then I figured out that, and I can't even tell you how many times I took this thing apart. It's countless times. And yeah, so, you know, if you guys, you know, love that kind of stuff, then, you know, more power to you, man. I mean, I'm kind of like OCD, and I just, you know, once I get into it, I can't stop, you know. That's just the way I am. But man, like, you know, probably 99% of the people would have already given up by now. But anyway, so that's the little pain in the butt thing right there, man. That's Cyntax Clutch. So if you can, definitely use another type of clutch unless you've got all the special tools to adjust that, because that thing's going to just be an absolute nightmare. That's just my 2 cents, guys. I just want to give you a heads up. I'll hopefully be running this thing soon, man. I think I'm probably gonna see. You can see it's almost a half a tank, and so by the end of this tank, hopefully this clutch shoe will be fully worn in. It's just been sitting on the bench, letting it, slowly run in, and what that means is like you just barely let it idle, and eventually, like the wheels will start turning from the clutch actually engaging. And so I was just happy to get the actual clutch to engage today after, working for, 8.5 hours last night and then a couple hours today. Can't even tell you how many hours I worked today on it. So anyway, guys, just wanted to give you an update, and yeah, wish me luck on this thing, man, and hopefully we'll get this thing on the track, or at least on the road. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see y'all later. Peace.